if you'd like, you can read that. Starting off chapter 6 on page 133, let's read this first piece. The net generation has arrived. They call it the N generation. Or they actually call it N-gen. How nifty. The baby boom has an echo and it's even louder than the original. What makes this generation different from all others before? It is the first to grow up surrounded by digital media. Computers can be found in the home, school, factory, and office, and digital technology such as cameras, video games, and CD-ROMs are commonplace. Increasingly, these new media are connected by the internet, an expanding web of networks, which is attracting 1 million new users monthly. Today's kids are so bathed in bits, that's funny, that they think it's all part of the natural landscape. That's important. To them, the digital technology is no more intimidating than a VCR or toaster. First time in history, children are more comfortable, knowledgeable, and literate than their parents about an innovation central to society. And it is through the use of digital media that the N generation will develop and superimpose its culture on the rest of society. Boomers stand back. Already these kids are learning, playing, communicating, working, and creating communities very differently than their parents. They are a force for social transformation. If left purely to market forces, the digital economy could foster a two-tiered society, creating a major gulf between information haves and have-nots, those who can communicate with the world and those who cannot. As information technology becomes more important for economic success and societal well-being, the possibility of information apartheid becomes increasingly real. Such a digital divide may mean that for many children, N-gen becomes not generation. So increasingly you're going to find that the have-nots are going to be the know-nots and the do-nots. That's their assumption. What do you make of all this technological revolution or technological advancement that we're going through? Would you characterize us as the net generation? Yes, why? Because we have the internet. Good job, bud. Any other reason? And what influence does it have? This is where I want you to exercise your sociological imagination. Take this occurrence, this social event. How does it affect the individual? How does the individual in turn affect society? Would you agree with this idea that this, us being the net generation, fosters a two-tiered society? And what are those two tiers?
Those who have it, those who don't.
Those who have technology and those who don't. What distinction does that bring? What distinction does that make? Is it just I have and I do not have? What are the effects, the implications, social implications?
Ones that are connected to the media and everything else, and the ones that are just on paper.
But again, that's have and have nots. What influence does that have on society?
Knowledge.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is also money. Power. Power is money. Money is power. Do you see how the development and the spread of technologies, and especially if it becomes a financial situation, whether or not you have access to the digital generation, the net generation, or the internet, determines your social status, your social standing because of its effect on your economic status. It in and of itself could create, if left completely to market forces, as the assertion of this author is, would literally create a two-tiered society. So technology, in a sense, is fostering social stratification. Pretty crazy. All right, functionalist view of the mass media. There are different sociological perspectives on the media. The functionalist view. Functionalists agree that the mass media is to entertain, except for what they call clearly identified news and educational programming. say they also socialize us, enforce social norms, confer status, and promote consumption. An important dysfunction of the mass media is that they may act as a narcotic, desensitizing us to distressing events. Okay, I think they actually talk about the narcotizing dysfunction of media later, right? Yeah, on page 138. So we won't talk about it right now, but that's a functionalist perspective. Do you agree that the media serve to socialize us? Do they enforce social norms? Do they confer status? Do they promote consumption? Yeah. Okay, this says enforce social norms. Do you think that they actually create social norms? And if so, what social norms would they create? And why would they create these social norms? And I may get into conflict perspective here.
Dress and
Okay.
I think a lot with that, with creating social norms comes from consumption though, because
Okay.
here, obviously every program you watch, you see what they wear, you see what they talk about, what they're using in their programs, this type of thing, and they wouldn't be like that.
Okay, so you would say there's a very strong tie between creating social norms and consumption. Okay. What about the way we think about certain issues? That's creating a social norm, but it's not necessarily consumption.
Yeah.
Right?
Do that.
And do they affect the way we think about certain issues?
Oh, absolutely.
Do they create what we think of as a social norm? I'll give you one right now. Apostle cues. You know what that is? They have different terms for it in different countries. Sweden, they call them sambos. Here, the persons of opposite sex sharing living quarters. Okay, people living together. The media has done a very good job of normalizing this. Okay, now you can make the argument. The chicken comes before the egg, or the egg comes before the chicken. Did the media normalize it? Or was the popularity of it the one that served as the normalizing element of this? Because you got to understand, dominant culture sees this as normative.
Still, they see it as normal?
Here in the United States?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, obviously...
That's my opinion. I don't have
I'm
research
just
to back
saying,
that up.
I'm just saying with the Christian society that, the United States has been in this, was, there's a lot of people who maybe did it just because out of rebellion, like through the 60s, 70s, like that, and I think it might have normalized it more, but I still think some people think twice about it.
Sure. I would agree. There's always going to be some element of the population who doesn't agree with it. We don't agree with it. It doesn't line up with Scripture. But that's because we're socialized to something different. We don't necessarily take on the dominant ideology of the culture that we're in. We still ascribe to standards set forth in Scripture. Okay? Whereas dominant society may see this as convenient, it is definitely popular as far as numerically, whether or not it's accepted. Who's to say? Again, I don't have statistics in front of me that can say this is normative. But the media definitely has done its part to enforce or reinforce or maybe create the idea that this is a social norm. Okay? Agents of socialization, the mass media as an agent of socialization. The media increase social cohesion by presenting a common, more or less standardized view of culture through mass communication. So a functionalist view would say, they would take the media and they would say, because of the way they present ideas, they put us on common ground. And that's how they connect us socially. The interactionist may have a different theory. What do you think the interactionist view is of the mass media? how would they say the mass media forms social cohesion? I believe it actually says in the book. Yeah. Any idea?
Day-to-day social behavior.
Day-to-day social behavior. How does the mass media affect that? Because remember, think about the two perspectives. Functionalist, macro-sociology. Interactionist, micro-sociology. Day-to-day, everyday behaviors, individual with individual. The functionalist sees the mass media as this dominant idea spreader, an agent of socialization. But the interactionist sees it on a day-to-day basis. And what do they say the mass media does?
Whatever it knows, like what's going on, like the same kind of stuff. Like whether it's news or if it's a TV show.
That's more functional stuff.
Like people talk about it, discuss what's going on.
That's it, right there. People connect. People talk about it. People talk to each other. A certain show can bring people together. People who like Survivor talk about the latest Survivor episode. I remember when I was working at this paint store. I really couldn't care less about what they were talking about this one show, and they were all insane about some Survivor episode. I've never even seen it, but they were just so excited about it, and they connected over it. I didn't. I couldn't connect with them over that, but they connected. So in that sense, the mass media served in an interactionist perspective the day-to-day link between those two individuals.
So some people watch sports.
They watch the Super Bowl together. They watch the Academy Awards, I think, is the other one that they list here. So things that people can do together as bonding events. Okay, that's one of the ways that the mass media serves in according to interactions. Of course, the socializing effects of the media can be used to promote the goals of dissident, even militant minorities. In the Palestinian-held Gaza Strip, Hamas, a group better known for its suicide bombing campaign, has launched a television program meant to familiarize children with the Palestinian position on the disputed territories. Okay, so they're using the media to spread an idea that we deserve this land, Israelis don't. This is our land, they should not be here.
They're indoctrinating their kids with it.
They're indoctrinating their kids with it. Absolutely. Very strong socialization.
Propaganda.
Propaganda. It can be an enforcer of social norm. The media often reaffirm proper behavior by showing what happens to people who act in a way that violates societal expectations. So the media can also serve as a warning. You deviate, this is what happens. Therefore, you should conform to the social norm. These messages are conveyed when the bad guy gets clobbered in cartoons or is thrown in jail on Law and Order. Yet the media also sometimes glorify disapproved behavior, whether it's physical violence, disrespect to a teacher, or drug use. The media play a critical role in shaping people's perceptions about the risk of substance abuse. There's actually some pretty interesting information there on how when they stopped giving anti-drug messages, drug use went way up. Listen to this. Increasing substance use among youths in the 1990s were linked to a decline in warnings and anti-drug messages from the media. The proliferation of pro-use messages from the entertainment industry and high levels of tobacco and alcohol product advertising and promotion. So you had a twofold thing. First of all, they decreased anti-drug. They increased drug consumption or pro messages. Media content analysis shows that in the 200 most popular movie rentals of 1996 and 1997, alcohol use appeared in 93%. Tobacco use in 89%. Illicit drug use in 22%, with marijuana and cocaine use shown most often. An analysis of the 1,000 most popular songs during the same period showed that 27% referred to either alcohol or illicit drugs in 99. 44% of entertainment programs aired by the 4 major television networks, portrayed tobacco use in at least one episode. In 1997, they passed a federal law that said we need to be able to put anti-drug messages on your television show. The major network says, no, you don't. Instead, what did they say? What did they suggest?
More shows about anti-use?
Kind of.
We're just talking about more aggressive anti-drug messages being in their shows.
Being embedded in their shows, exactly. So they kind of, in ER and what was the other one they said?
Practice.
The practice, they integrated these anti-drug messages,
So they show the drugs, but they show that the effects of it?
apparently.
Yeah, like it would be somebody coming into the emergency room because they OD'd and how they died.
But think about that. They know they can use their shows for propaganda. And so literally they can create social norms. They can create and reinforce social norms through their shows. Not even advertising. They're not even giving you an argument for it. They're not even appealing to reason. But through their shows, they are advocating the values that they have. You understand the influence of that? Control of status. The mass media confers status on people, organizations, and public issues. Example. Anybody want to give me an example? How does the mass media confer status?
Maybe just by putting somebody or something at the front and saying this is
Absolutely.
the way it is or how it should
Yeah.
be.
What's the one example they give? Princess Diana? I'm sorry, it's cold.
I'll
wait. I'll wait.
Oh, please don't.
Sorry. Okay, Princess Diana. They made her huge. They said this is an important figure. Actually, they have a chart right here on table 6-1 on page 138. Time Magazine. Richard Nixon, 59 times. Jesus Christ has been on there 21 times. Isn't that cool? I wonder if he has long hair every time.
That's pretty cool.
Princess Diana, Janet Jackson. As a matter of fact, did you read the news about Jennifer Aniston? No, I didn't. She's the most profitable face of any celebrity in the U.S.
Good, because...
That means her face sells magazines. And so they've discovered that really they're conferring status on her. By putting her at the forefront, she becomes more and more important. We do that about social issues. Why isn't everybody outraged about Darfur? Because it's not in our face all the time. The media has not conferred status on it. So they do that with people and they do that with issues. Does it give that example in here? Where Sophie, maybe you know this. I don't know. Because they don't explain it. It says, obviously, People magazine alone was not responsible for making Princess Diana into a wonderful figure. But collectively, all the media outlets created a notoriety for Princess Victoria of Sweden, for one, did not enjoy.
I didn't understand it because I think they just picked a random princess and said this is, I don't know. Well, I know they write about her a lot in like German magazines, and there have been times where like that she's been pregnant and stuff like that. She sued them and stuff like, but I haven't heard that much about people writing about her.
Me neither. So I didn't know what that was about. Anyway, another way that, think about this. And we'll talk a little bit about it when we talk about big corporations owning media factions or media entities, whatever. They point out that The Matrix made headlines during the beginning of the Iraq War. The Matrix movie made headlines in, what was it, Time magazine, I think?
Yeah.
It made front page instead of something about the Iraq War. Why is that? Well, because the same company that released the movie is the one that owns the magazine.
Oh, yeah.
But the bottom line is they are converting status to that movie.
There's something about that too, they're showing animals instead of tsunami. They're showing like elephants or something like that. I remember hearing about it.
They're showing elephants.
They're showing
instead of,
animals.
instead of,
like the war or something like that. Because my mom was making a big deal about it. She goes, my son's in the army and blah 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 in Iraq and all this, and I was just like, I don't see it every day.
Yeah.
Because she's got a TV, she sees it all the time. But the number one news thing was about animals, and she's like,
why are they taking precedent over more important issues
yeah.
that we feel are more important? The bottom line is because they can. But you've got to understand that each thing that they do confers status, establishes social norms, and are agents of socialization. How free do you think you are of mass media? To think completely on your own. We think the more we're attached to mass media, the more we're informed.
No. If we're surrounded by it, the less effective we are, I think.
You think?
Well, like coming out here.
Or do you think the more we're affected by it?
Well, affected in the sense if we see it, it has more of an effect on us than they actually live in it. But say effect on our lives, we're actually from our lifestyles after what this mass media is telling us. Come in here, you don't get mass media, you get television, radio, all those type of things. I notice I'm completely just cut off from everything like that. And when I get back to it, I'm very, just, like you said, I'm affected by what I see, but I'm not affected in the sense like I'll apply that lifestyle.
Okay.
I think it gives us ideas about like you pick a TV station like CNN and you like watch them and you use the information they give you to form your opinions and make your comments to people and all this stuff, but all you're getting is CNN's view of certain stories that they felt were most important, or the information from certain stories that they felt that you should know about, whether it was that. I don't think any station actually anymore is giving any type of truth to certain situations. I mean, there might be a couple of people or stations or stuff like that.
So places that they apparently just report what happened, they don't report what happened. They always tend to offer an analysis of what happened from their perspective, what they choose to show you and what they choose not to show you, which the conflict theory or the conflict perspective talks about, or conflict view talks a little bit about, and it calls it gatekeeping. And it's important because, again, it ascribes status to certain things that I keep referring it to they. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not for me, we're all against this the man and this big system, and, let's all go rage against the machine on it. But I do think that we need to not be ignorant to the fact that much of what the mass media wants to feed us, we eat.
Yeah, for sure.
We eat it. We believe it. The more educated you become, the harder it is for them to convince you of something. But nevertheless, if you're flooded and inundated with the same message over and over and over and over again, I guarantee you, we think, even though all of you disagree with it, we think this is more acceptable than 4 or 5 generations ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, think about Friends or Seinfeld or anything else like that has, people living together. It's just...
It's normal.
a norm, but Leave It to the Beaver, or Leave It to Beaver, whatever it's called,
Exactly.
whatever it's called. But years ago, it was just, it would have been this huge racy thing, and
Right.
they wouldn't even broadcast it.
Oh, they have...
That's why I Love Lucy, the two
yeah.
they have here, they said that because they
That was
filmed
the
them
norm.
in the same
The
bed.
2 beds, yeah.
They would, in Hollywood, they would film.
And they wouldn't say what words?
For years.
Pregnant.
She was pregnant in real life for so many episodes, and they didn't. It was just huge coming out in the media when she actually announced on air that she was pregnant. They were
Right.
having a baby.
Right.
I remember that.
Very true. Promotion of consumption, 20,000. Oh my goodness, don't even get me started on this one. I literally could have brought you a book. I had a whole class on this actually, And you might find it very, very interesting. Sociology of advertising. Unbelievable. 20,000 commercials a year. That's the number the average child in the U.S. watches on television in 1 year. 20,000 commercials. They show up on high school scoreboards, rock concerts, banners on web pages. They're embedded in motion pictures. It points out E.T.'s Reese's Pieces. I don't know what that's about, but I'm sure somebody does.
Did you know that, like, with that, I think they wanted to originally use M&Ms, and M&Ms turned them down. And so they used Reese's Pieces for the movie, and Reese's Pieces, like, the same.
Just exploded. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Look right here. What is it?
Starbucks.
This Austin Powers, the Spider Shag Meat, Starbucks, right there. In a movie you might see someone open Doritos and drink a Coca-Cola.
With the label facing out or something?
Yeah. No, well actually no, to make it very obvious that, hey, look what I'm drinking, one of those kinds of things. But I remember when I was a kid, okay, we didn't have a TV, but when I would go for my piano lessons, we'd go to this old couple's house, and it was me and my sister. And so I would do my lessons real quick and then go watch TV while my sister got to do her lessons. I mean, I was just sitting there and TV happened to be there. Anyway, I noticed in shows, I would look for these kinds of things, just as a kid, absent-mindedly maybe. But all the soda cans are like brand X and like blank cans and like generic potato chip bags, and I'm like, what kind of stuff is that? Because I kept thinking, where do you buy stuff like that? Well, why don't they drink Coke or Pepsi or something? But it's because it wasn't big then.
Right.
Now, people understand that they're reinforcing certain kinds of cars. James Bond, man, when he drives a new car, it explodes. These Aston Martins. Or the Mini Cooper in some movies, whatever. Or the Hummers, whatever. Yes.
I remember when I was younger, we used to drink 7-Up a lot, and like when I was kind of coming in after high school, or through high school and after high school, they had Kobe Bryant do the ads for Sprite.
You were drinking 7-Up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I don't I can't think about at what point, but now, because for 7-Up it was always, if I was sick or my mom would it was just 7-Up. And now I can't even remember the last time I had a 7-Up, but I've had Sprite a ton.
Dude, it's Kobe Bryant. It must taste better. Kobe Bryant advertises for
well,
it.
did Green Hill start doing it before COVID?
Yeah, there was like a
started doing
huge
Sprite.
ad push of basketball players for a soda drink, which was very...
Yeah,
I didn't
like they're an
understand
authority. Oh, he's Kobe Bryant. He must know the best soda ever.
Well, he's probably in the middle of a game, and he drinks a
Slams it, or Gatorade or whatever.
So you can't play. It makes
But think about the Jordan brand of shoes.
Yeah.
He's a celebrity. They put his little picture everywhere, his little logo, his little icon, and he literally has become an icon. He is one of, if not the most recognized athlete in the world. Michael Jordan, Bulls. They used to be good. Actually, they're actually getting better again. Anyway, I used to be a big fan when I was a kid, before I came to know Christ. Just became a fan of Jesus.
He's the second now. Michael Jordan is the second, behind David Beckham.
Oh, really? Okay.
They had like a list of came out, but
Okay. Especially since he came to the U.S., probably has really helped, because here he wasn't, honestly, I didn't even hear about him until this last year. Dave Beckham.
He was huge.
I didn't know who he was till like last year.
He was like super huge in Europe.
the funny thing is that...
Sorry, Beckham, I'm dumb, okay?
He came here and some people were like, who is this? Or they may have heard of the name or something.
Yeah, like...
But if you go even Canada or Mexico, and everybody knows.
Well, yeah,
everybody's...
we're way behind on the football
The
thing.
rest of the world knows.
It's because our football is football, real football.
We have more than one sport.
All right, media advertising has several clear functions. So while you may see it as, okay, we're inundated with commercials, it can reinforce maybe some negative things, but it does have some positive, clear positive functions. It supports the economy, provides information about products, and underwrites the cost of media. Speaking of which, provides information about products. What do you guys think about drug advertising on television?
Advertising?
Yeah.
Like drugs as in illegal
No,
drugs?
we're talking about
Medications.
prescription medications. Are they value of service or are they a negative thing? Positive or negative?
I've listened to them. Not that I've watched TV, but I think I've seen it on YouTube.
Put the towel on top of it.
Yeah.
I heard this one guy say he's always in the hotel room, and as soon as I got there, I put a towel over the TV. And he says, but after a while, I took it off because I couldn't breathe under there. That was funny. Why am I sitting like that? Sorry. That's actually becoming a real big issue because more and more people are trying to get access to these drugs outside of legal means, prescription drugs. But the drug companies argue, no, it's a good thing because we inform the public. All right, 14% of those who viewed the 2003 Super Bowl did only for the commercials. After the Super Bowl, I go to YouTube and check out all the commercials, and they're really, really funny. They're really entertaining, probably more entertaining than Super Bowl. Nobody cares. Huh? How much money do they spend?
$1 million.
Several $1 million for a 30-second spot. But, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. But,
We had all forgot about it.
now mental images. But they do sell. They do sell. So it may be time, money well spent. Media advertising contributes to a consumer culture that creates needs. Advertising creates needs. Advertising is supposed to be the answer to your need. But they create the need and then they tell you that they're the answer. They create needs and raise unrealistic expectations of what is required to be happy or satisfied. First, they tell you that you're a loser and that you need their stuff to make you happy. This will make you happy.
Or to lose your loser status, you can.
Yeah, don't be a loser. Drive a BMW or drink Bud Light. Yeah. Because the media depend heavily on advertising revenue, advertisers can influence media content. Dysfunction. One of the dysfunctions of media, the narcotizing effect. According to Paul Lazarsfeld and Robert Merton, they created the term narcotizing dysfunction in 1948 to refer to the phenomenon in which the media provides such massive amounts of coverage that the audience becomes numb and fails to act on the information regardless of how compelling the issue. Consider how often the media initiate a great outpouring of philanthropic support in response to natural disasters or family crises. But then what happens? Research shows that as time passes, viewer fatigue sets in, the mass media audience becomes numb, desensitized to the suffering, and may even conclude that a solution to the crisis has been found. The thing with Katrina, boom, it came out. Oh my goodness, horrible things with Katrina. But then it ground on, day after day, week after week, month after month. Now it's just like, yeah, Katrina, boy, that was bad. Somehow we become desensitized to these events if we are overwhelmed by them. The enormity of them seems so big that it is difficult for us to feel like we can do anything about it. Media's narcotizing dysfunction was identified 50 years ago. There were just a few homes that had television, well before the advent of electronic media. At that time, the dysfunction went largely unnoticed, but today, commentators often point out the ill effects of addiction to television or the internet, especially among young people. Street crime, explicit sex, war, HIV, AIDS, apparently are such overwhelming topics that some in the audience may feel they have acted, or at the very least learned all they need to know simply by watching the news. Sometimes people feel that if they sat through and just felt so bad for these people that they did their part. They did their part. And suddenly the issue is solved because I felt bad. with them. I'd empathize, and therefore that's good enough. Not the case. But that is one of the dysfunctions of the media. Conflict. Conflict view. Can you imagine what the conflict view says about the mass media? What do you think? Give me something.
They're determining everything. You can't think for yourself anymore. You can't.
What are they creating? What does conflict view say the mass media are creating? Divisions. What kind of divisions?
Gender, race,
Gender,
ethnicity,
race,
social class.
ethnicity, social class. Perfect. Unfortunately, I have to agree a lot with conflict theory on this one. On most issues, conflict theories or conflict views a little abrasive for me, a little out there on some issues. This is my personal views, but this one they do. I think a lot of what they say is true. Gatekeeping. The mass media constitute a form of big business in which profits are generally more important than the quality of programming. Gatekeeping is, within the mass media, a relatively small number of people control what eventually reaches the audience through a process known as gatekeeping. The mass media, I'm going to talk about them as this collective, big, huge body that's doing all these bad things. But the mass media, there are a handful of people that say what should and should not be broadcast. This is called gatekeeping. What they choose to show you and what they choose not to show you is very well calculated. The mass media constitute a form of big business in which profits are generally more important than the quality of programming. It doesn't matter how much quality the programming is, it doesn't make money. Within the mass media, a relatively small number of people control what eventually reaches the audience. Again, through gatekeeping. In socialist and communist regimes, the government plays a gatekeeping role. Okay? Why do they do that? Why in a socialist type government, some socialists and all communist governments do that?
So they can create propaganda.
They can
Get their views out.
propagate propaganda.
Yeah.
Control.
They control it, and they can control the people through media.
Most of those, I think our media is money-led more than
As it
dominance. I mean,
I agree with you.
because you look at like Germany and all these places, they didn't do it to make money.
Right.
They did it to
Propagate an idea.
to propagate their idea of betterhood so that they could train an army of robots to kill people at will with no real purpose except for the propaganda. On the other hand, we're not doing that. I don't think we're doing that. I think it's all about money. It's all about money.
It is all about money.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I think it's hand in hand in a sense in the United States.
Okay. I think it's bigger than what you're saying, though. You're right, it's all about money, but it's not necessarily immediate consumerism. Take a step back. We're going to take a huge view of this. They reinforce ideas. They propagate ideas that cause us to continue to give them power and to give them money. I think we can go from oil to energy to taxes that keep the rich rich, that keep those in power in power. It's an idea, you're right, it is about money, but it's this big picture, not just immediate consumerism. Not just to keep the economy going for everyone to be, for wealth to be distributed. No, it's about centralizing money. And the conflict theory, or the conflict view will actually really point that out. Gatekeeping is least influential on the internet. Why?
Because you have access to anything.
You have access to anything. There's no regulatory commission on the internet.
Unless you have like filter.
Is that good or bad? The internet is a means of quickly disseminating information or misinformation. Not everything that you read on the internet is true. I saw it on the internet. I don't care. However, another criticism of gatekeeping process is that the content makes it through the gates does not reflect the diversity of the audience. The way things are represented on the media is not necessarily what is represented or is not necessarily representative of the population as a whole. For example, what percentage of shows do you think, honestly I don't have a clue. I do have a clue, but I haven't actually seen these shows, but what percentage of shows do you think have characters in it that are homosexual? Sometimes main character. Okay.
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them have some relationship in it that is homosexual.
Or somebody who works at a store they go through, or...
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere, there's some character in there. Okay. Pretty much in every single show. Okay? That being the case, you may think that, hey, if this is representative of society, we actually have quite a few homosexuals. But the truth is that they're homosexuals at best comprise 4% of the population. At best. Most estimates are about 2%. That's right. This idea, they are overrepresented in the media. And some are underrepresented, especially Hispanics. Blacks are, but Hispanics even more are underrepresented. Because Hispanics make up a huge part of the population, yet there are not very many in mainstream media. Dominant ideology constructs reality. The mass media maintains the privileges of certain groups. Well, let's take a step back. Media monitoring. What do you think about that? Should the media monitor what goes on in the internet? Should there be a monitor
On the internet?
on the internet?
Some people have filters, but it's like content.
Of the information that you're able to access?
Actually, I think I have another place where I actually want to talk about that, but... Okay, yeah. Should there be limits on the internet? Or should we just let it go?
Free for all.
Right now it's free for all, pretty much.
One year I was talking about how in China if somebody is critical of the government or official or something, they will block people from being able to Google that person or find out more.
Google has actually done that. They've made that agreement to do that. Because China says we won't use you if you won't block these results in their searches. And so they agree, okay, we'll block them. So they allow them to come into their country.
Stuff like that.
Huh?
I heard it was something like democracy or trying to...
Oh, any dissident of the communist regime, anyone who is pro-democracy or anti-communism or outspoken against the government or promoting religious propaganda, anything like that is blocked.
Yeah, but if you start limiting what you can view, that's gonna, who decides on what we limit?
I don't know.
What we don't limit?
Should there be?
Because
Should
then
there be
we
any
start
limits?
limiting things that we need, that we want.
Okay.
That's like-
What about pornography?
I'm not saying that we should, I'm just saying that.
I'm asking the tough questions here.
I think it should be easy. Like, on TV they have certain rules, you know what I mean? Or at the radio you can't play
Like FCC.
bad words when their kids will listen.
Right.
And same thing for porn. You don't just get porn, you have to order it or that kind of stuff. But with the internet, it's everything's available on anything. You know what I mean? Even if it's
Maybe you don't want it.
kind of like in like terrorist groups or whatever, like.
Right,
sects,
right.
Like they're okay with it, and normally like we have like free rights or whatever, like, I was taking political science and all that stuff. But we have like free rights or whatever, we have, I guess like, we can't like stop things, I guess like even like freedom of speech or whatever, all that kind of stuff, because they, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, through the mass media,
Yeah, but like we don't do that for the internet. Like,
No, we don't.
should.
Should we, and to what extent should we do that? It was interesting to me, and I expected that. I expected this, but when I went to Sweden this summer, you go into a store, you go into 7-Eleven, I don't know what their fascination with it is, but they love hardcore rap. And they're dropping F-bombs everywhere. And it's like little kids are in the store, and they're just cussing and talking, because I know what the songs say. I can hear them. I've heard the songs before, and I know what they're talking about. And it's vulgar, it's lewd, it's disgusting, it's demeaning, but there's no filters on it. They don't have filters on that type of speech, whereas we do. But the internet takes it to a different level in that you have access to anything. Should kids be limited? Man, you could go right here to the... who am I thinking of? The people who sues every Christian organization.
All the, Seventh Circuit?
No, that's the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union. They think in all libraries, including school libraries, kids should have access to anything. If they want to get on pornographic sites, that's fine. It's their right. They think that books containing things that some parents would see as morally objectionable should be readily available in their libraries. Did you hear about the woman on the East Coast who checked out every book on, it was like sex ed or something like that, in a whole library and refused to return them? Because she didn't want her kids to see them in the library. Just kept them. Because literally, seriously, some of the books she had were literally just pornographic, bottom line. Well, I'll talk about pornography in just a few minutes. But think about that. Because seriously, that is an issue that this generation is going to have to deal with. What are we going to do with the internet? It's new. And at what point does it become a dysfunction of society? One thing that I thought was a good idea, maybe you can give me an argument against it, I don't know why it didn't pass, but that all pornographic sites should end with XXX, not .com. It should be .xxx. That way you know where you're going. You don't accidentally end up on their sites. But they tried to push that through Congress and it didn't pass. I don't know why. All I can think of is somebody got paid.
Yeah.
And someone says, because porn industry is huge. It is immense and it is extremely wealthy. These are my opinions. I don't really know about this. All I do know is that they tried to pass that. It didn't pass. Maybe you can think of a good reason why it didn't.
Because they're into it?
Started passing it, are into it.
They're like, man, I don't want to have to
No,
put
they won't like
I just want to get there. Maybe they want an excuse to get there. I don't know. Anyway, let's go on. Actually, we don't have much time. We have a lot to talk about. Actually, you know what? Today, I think I'm going to give you guys a break, too. Okay, we've got 4 minutes before the top of the hour, and then I'll let you guys go for a few minutes. Zone ideology, constructing reality. Conflict theorists argue that the mass media maintain privilege of certain groups. Moreover, while protecting their own interests, powerful groups may limit the media's representation of others. The term dominant ideology describes a set of cultural beliefs and practices that helps to maintain powerful social, economic, and political interests, kind of what we were just talking about. The media transmit messages that virtually define what we regard as the real world, even though those images frequently vary from what the larger society experiences. Okay? Now, Nate and I were kind of going back and forth about this. He says the mass media, the basic propaganda is to make money. And I said, well, it's also to promote ideas, to support power and wealth.
Those people with
Exactly. And so they put the things out there that reinforce their own stability. Understand? Their own power and their own wealth. Mass media decision makers are overwhelmingly white, male, and wealthy. Boo. Boom on the white guys. Oh, sorry. I was saying that. Alright, stereotypes, unreliable generalizations about all members of a group that do not recognize individual differences within the group. All Mexicans look alike. That's a stereotype. Okay? They don't recognize distinctions in the group. It's just like, and pretty much every Latino is Mexican. Not the case in reality, but that's what we stereotype. It doesn't matter if you're from Honduras or El Salvador. Oh, so you're Mexican?
I'm super offended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I do that too, and I'm Mexican. I'm like, oh, you're Mexican, huh? And they're like, no,
Yeah, they
I'm
get
whatever. I'm like,
really
oh,
mad.
you're Mexican.
Yeah.
I do that same thing with Chinese people, but I would call them chow mein. You know? I was a little so like almost when I was trying to that's how many guys running across. I never thought to call. I didn't know there was. I thought Chinese was the term Asian. I just thought like that's what
Oh, okay.
Chinese
So you
was.
thought they were all Chinese.
And for me, like I can't tell between Chinese people. Like Slider doesn't. And I know people that are like
Yeah.
Chinese people, I mean Asian people, I can't.
Yeah.
So that's why it's funny that you see that.
Well, my little sister, she saw a guy drive by in a big rig, a big truck, and he had a turban on. And she said, "Look, she saw, Bud, look, a genie." I don't know where she got that. All right, I'll let you guys go for a few minutes. Come back in about 5, and we'll pick it up.
Kind of feels like my vote for my 45 minutes.
They're still not here.